morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you live in the world. Wherever you live in the world. Okay. I get so frustrated watching these shows. These shows are so ridiculous that you just want you just want to know what's going on without the bullshit. So I will do this, and it won't be long, and then we'll move it over to the MAGA Coalition YouTube channel where it belongs, and then people can get educated on it if they want to. If they don't, that's fine. The uh, the very small summary has been delivered, as you know, unless you're living under a rock or watching the NCAA tournament. You'll know that William Barr has delivered his cursory summary, as promised, to the judicial chairman and ranking members. Okay, so we're going to discuss a few of these key points that are getting missed. Am I Debbie Downer? It depends on what you want. I don't really know what you're talking about. Facts are facts, and that's it. Okay, so really no surprises on the collusion front. We already knew that that was not based on anything he accomplished through the court systems. We already knew that collusion really wasn't in play here. We were just going to be curious to see how far he would go, he being Mueller, into inferring that the Russians were the ones that interfered, which is the most interesting component of the report to me. There are certain things that are very easy to deduce. One, he was not going to be able to make an obstruction case because obstruction clearly requires, as the report or the summary report dictates, that requires a criminal intent. And how the hell are you going to? Well, first of all, not all obstruction is created equal. It's kind of hard to obstruct justice when you are in charge of justice for a period of time in American history, and that period of time is when you are president, and then you are basically the chief officer of the judiciary, and you really would have to mess around Nixon style to obstruct justice. So the Democrat talking points are going to be that Rod Rosenstein along the way did not allow Mueller to pursue obstruction of justice as much as he really wanted to, which is of course bullshit, not true. The key component of keeping Rod Rosenstein around, I want to quickly touch on this before we move on. The beautiful part about keeping Rod Rosenstein around just long enough for this report to be in, which is a couple weeks longer than we really thought it was going to take, it's pretty beautiful because Rod is a weasel and has been dancing on the head of a pin for quite some time. He is a very self-fixated, self-preservationist, doesn't care about anyone but keeping his own reputation and in some cases his job. So it's going to be kind of hard to say that Rod Rosenstein, the one who went overboard, bent over backwards to facilitate every request that Mueller wanted, and now you're going to say that he is working part and parcel with William Barr to cover up what Mueller really wanted to do. It won't work. So if you listen to Jerry Nadler this morning, as I suffered through, the talking points have been issued, and they're saying that this is not a successful vindication of the president, and they still have records that they are concerned with, like the so-called Trump Tower meeting. So they really don't think Don Jr. should be off the hook. They don't think that Jared Kushner should be off the hook. So they're still talking about things of this nature, still talking about the potential obstruction of the president saying, allegedly saying to Jim Comey, could you go easy on General Flynn? But it's kind of hard to prove obstruction when Trump says he didn't say that. The one person who said he said it was Jim Comey, who's a verified liar. And General Flynn is still waiting sentencing from his guilty plea, which means nobody went easy on him. In fact, instead of going easy on him, it certainly looks like they pounded him into the ground, and in a very unfair fashion at that. So it's the opposite of obstruction, people. That's a weak talking point. Weak sauce, Dems. You're gonna have to dig deeper than that. Hire better people. I want to explain a very important point to my Democrat friends out there. Before you move forward, I would like to explain a very important point. I know your limitations. I know you can hire a couple of lawyers that used to work for the NSA, and I know you can hire a couple of lawyers that used to work for the DOJ and to criminal financial fraud investigative wings. I know what you can do, but your finite resources are going to cap you in a way that the Department of Justice resources will just not be comparable to you. So I'm going to read you off a very important point. This is for all my Democrat friends out there. This is all my Democrat friends out there. And we actually do have a couple that check in on here. So this could be for Robin if Robin watches this later. Robin Biro, the ever, well, we're going to call him the ever sensible Democrat surrogate out there. So this is for guys like Robin who are maybe in a position to reach back and ping the Democrat talking machine. You're looking at saying that you're going to continue this process because it's your job as oversight committees to look into protecting the constitutional liberties of the law enforcement agencies, blah, 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 blah. I'm going to read you a very important point. And this point here is made by William Barr to Congress very specifically. It discusses the special counsel, the thorough investigation, and then it delineates the following. In the report, the special counsel noted in completing his investigation, he employed 19 lawyers who were assisted by a team of approximately 40 FBI agents, intelligence analysts, forensic accountants, and other professional staff. Special counsel issued more than 2,800 subpoenas, executed nearly 500 search warrants, obtained more than 230 orders of communication records, issued almost 50 orders authorizing use of pen registers, which is significant, made 13 requests to foreign governments for evidence, and interviewed approximately 500 witnesses. Now, the Democrats on their oversight committees will have about 5 or 6 staff members, 3 of which will be attorneys, and then they'll contract out the services, but they don't have enough money to just go bananas. So there's not going to be any big investigation that's going to reveal anything more. And it's constantly William Barr will go before the oversight committees and he will be asked a question about giving more information on the report. They're not going to go into anything that they're not allowed to go into. And the funny thing is you're asking the Department of Justice to turn against its own regulations. They're not going to do that. So, and then in a couple weeks, when Rod Rosenstein is out on his ass, he's not going to be able to talk any more than Mueller was going to be able to talk. They're never going to be able to talk. It's not like they're going to have a Michael Cohen moment and throw their whole lives away and get ready to go to jail and go and lie before Adam Schiff and Jerry Nadler. It's not going to happen. I wouldn't spike any footballs because, you know, Mueller passed off certain things that he couldn't prove or didn't seem prudent enough to get included in this report. So the Southern District of New York has certain cases, but you know, I'm not spiking a football, but I think I'm pretty much getting ready to get in a victory formation. And if you don't follow football, victory formation is when you take a knee to end the game. So let me get back to the actual Barr report so everybody's on the same page. It addresses 2 issues here. One is the main issue of Russian interference into the actual campaign. There was no collusion. There was no collusion. That was never really going to be able to be proven. And now the Democrats are lamenting the fact that they were chasing a unicorn. They were chasing a unicorn here, legally speaking, anyway, which was what civil libertarians like Alan Dershowitz was out there screaming into the hills. You're not going to get collusion. You don't even know how to, you know, equate that to a conspiracy. So that was a problem for him. I've certainly others, Andrew McCarthy, Jonathan Turley at times, were trying to quietly counsel the Democrats that they were never going to get on top of that mountain. It was not going to be something that they were going to be able to do. Similar, in a similar fashion, in a similar vein, you're not going to achieve obstruction. As I said before, obstruction requires strict criminal intent. He did not in any way obstruct this investigation. He fired Comey, was smart enough to have a memo signed by Rosenstein. Rosenstein flipped that chit that he had with the president immediately into forcing Mueller as a special counsel appointment. So the president paid dearly. Thank you, Susie. The president paid dearly for using that memo from Rosenstein, but it did help deflect the issues of obstruction on firing Comey. Nothing else materialized. He did not fire Mueller. Mueller, unfortunately for Mueller, part of the Section 600 regs for the special counsel protocol dictate that if there is a disagreement, and in this case it would have been with Rod Rosenstein, if Mueller came to Rosenstein and said, I want to pursue this, and Rosenstein says no, that has to by law be expressly stated, and it would be contained in the report and shared with Congress. They say in this report it is already, written, and there's no confusion because Rosenstein's not there. Think about Rosenstein if we shoved him out the door before the report came. If we shoved Rosenstein out the door before the report came, there could be an existing talking point before everybody out there in clandestine Rosenstein land or Brian Def Cates start talking about how Rosenstein is a saint and look at this, he's really backing up the president on this. No. He's backing up himself, and he's also a very convenient point of order for us in this whole process, because the Dems would have a talking point. Well, we don't really know if Mueller was obstructed in doing what he wanted to do because Rosenstein's not there to tell us the story. We need to get Rosenstein under oath. We need to get Rosenstein before a committee. Well, sorry, that's not going to happen. So another talking point missed. Somebody was thinking ahead of the game. I'm pretty sure that somebody is William Barr. Yeah. So kind of funny there. Another talking point pulled like a rug that the Democrats cannot utilize. So that handles the obstruction side. So we've got collusion that was never going to be proven. That's why the president strictly spoke every time about collusion, witch hunt, hoax. All of that language is prefatory to what he knows is going to be an ultimate finding that there was no collusion. He knew that because he knows that in a way that a person under trial or under indictment for murder knows that he was in a different country at the time that it happened. I mean, he just knew that there was not going to be any way to get him associated with collusion. And because of the legal discovery process, he knew that there was nobody in his orbit that was going to be either. So that was a strong point. It was made deliberately, sometimes sloppily by Rudy Giuliani along the way. So don't get in your own way when you're winning. So you keep Rudy on the sidelines. You kind of let this dust clear on this stuff for a couple of weeks so you know it's coming down. So the only point that we're going to be looking at here of interest to me, and it should be of interest to you, and it's not being discussed. It's not being discussed on air. Not being discussed by anyone on the TV that I've seen yet. And you say, well, Adam, you said something about Assange. I mean, where does Assange fall into this? Well, hold on. People are telling me that Trump spoke. So let's go look and see what we can find on that. Trump just spoke, huh? All right, well. Leave Closer alone? I wouldn't touch Michael J. Gross with a 10-foot pole. Go Google that asshole. What does he know? He's a check fraud, scam artist, lying, foreclosing bastard. Don't even mention Closer in my scope. Might as well just take a hike. Closer couldn't even read a report. I'm not even sure he can read. This might be a little too intellectual fare for you if you're a Mike Closer follower. You might want to go someplace else. So what we're going to do is try to find any of these comments from Trump, but I'm not seeing it. So I'll have to take your word on it. I see the tweets. No collusion, no obstruction, and complete and total exoneration. Of course, I told you he was going to say that. Everybody told you he was going to say that. That's his version of spiking the football. No point not to for him at this point. You've already done that. If you're the president, you're going to take this ball and run with it right down. And if you're William Barr, you're not going to try to help him get into the mode where he starts seeking vengeance, where if Trump did in fact say there needs to be an investigation into all the bad actors that made this happen, I am not surprised that he would say that. Why wouldn't he say that? He's been promising that since the campaign trail. But I can assure you of one thing: William Barr has no desire to feed the worst of the baser instincts of the president. It's not going to happen. He's going to see the relevant reports as related to his parts of the investigation, that he was under investigation, and the people maybe in his family. He will not see anything that he can use and in a public to mistakenly cite something that shouldn't be cited in the report. As the president, I said before, he could tell William Barr, "You're giving me the whole report. You're giving me the whole report. I'm your boss. You're giving it to me." If I were William Barr, I would say, "Mr. President, I cannot facilitate that request, and you'll have to fire me if that's what you want." And of course, he won't fire William Barr, because William Barr is by far the most important cabinet position he's ever filled, and it'll just go on from there. So I wouldn't blame Trump for asking, because Trump's going to say, "Listen, I got a report to write." Um, Click on the search bar on Twitter. Trump's right there. Okay. But yeah, I really don't care, because I pretty much know what he was going to say. Uh, this is our side's talking point. Our side's talking point is now, like the Michael Goodwin article from the New York Post and shared on Fox. Our side talking point is going to be, now we investigate Hillary, now we investigate Comey, now we investigate McCabe. I can't condone that line right now. I think what we do is we hold all that stuff while it's a really bad, smelly, rotten egg that's just uncracked right now. I'd rather use that metaphor than sword of Damocles, because it's not like a sword of Damocles. It's not going to kill the Democrats, because the Democrats really aren't intent on impeaching the president. They are intent on causing him political damage going into 2020. I'm going to refer to it instead as a smelly egg, a smelly, rotten egg that is not broken yet. And that's what can happen to the Democrats by viciously going after people who are not fully complying with their whiny little witch hunts against the president and his family and the financial organization. So if we chip away at all of the problems that occurred, it is going to be in conjunction with Horowitz finally releasing the report. Horowitz is not going to release a report about the bad actors involved in unmasking or FISA-gate abuses, things of that nature, until we get this ball out of the way. Okay, so this ball is off the court. Now, the new ball on the court is going to be, William Barr needs to find a way to get, and if somebody brings up an idiot like Mike Closer again, I'm gonna have to block you. I hate to do it, but I will. We're talking about serious things, intellectual things about people who have actually been in government, understand, not scam artists. Okay, so move on, or go watch somebody else. They're going to pursue the Doug Collins, the ranking member of Judiciary, is going to pursue continued transcript releases, which essentially act as declassified documents. The president still has at-large authority to declass as he sees fit, may strategically do so in conjunction with what William Barr wants. You have to flip everything over in a 180 fashion to understand what's going on, because we've gone from a adversarial situation with Jeff Sessions and Rosenstein, one of which was hiding under his desk, and the other one was actually going to wear legitimately a wire to try to get this president removed via the 25th Amendment. I mean, Rosenstein is a terrible, terrible enemy of the people. And I agree that he should probably be referenced in some type of report by Horowitz for his irresponsible behavior, including signing off twice on a renewed warrant in FISA court for Carter Page. Believe me, I don't think we're done making an ass out of Rod Rosenstein, and I think Rosenstein knows that. That's why he's being extremely helpful right now. That is typical Rod Rosenstein. You won't find anything different in his personality in his past, and you won't find it different in the future. Perhaps 10 years from now, Rod Rosenstein will be John Dean, the whiny, pissy little person who will, that's cool, My watch recorded everything I just said there. Sometimes I wear it too tight. Pretty nice. I have that dictation device on my wrist. So anyway, I wouldn't leap into the air and throw roses on Rosenstein because right now he's just trying to save whatever bacon left he can save. So president's gonna spike his football. That's fine. Roger Stone still has to fight for his political and personal life. Mike Flynn is still waiting for sentencing until the point where I guess he cooperates against his former partner in his firm in a trial to put him in prison. So Michael Flynn's life has been pretty much destroyed, at least turned upside down. His family's been ripped apart. The Q scammers have gone in there like festering disease into the wound of the Flynn family, which is a shame. And the reality of it is that Michael Flynn now must cooperate and essentially impugn his own character by being a cooperating witness against a former partner into abusing some of the Fair Act violations to lobby and not register as an agent. So I mean, and of course Paul Manafort has to try to find a way to live, for another 17 months till he can even have the chance to have his sentence commuted. So people have been destroyed, their lives have been destroyed, bank accounts have been ruined. Caputo has been the first one in line to say that, that he was broke. Literally, Mueller broke him, and it's a damn shame. Papadopoulos served a couple days in prison, hundreds of thousands of dollars in legal bills. His reputation ruined. Carter Page, this poor guy who's been being looked at by the FBI since 2015 or 14. They never found anything on Carter Page. And so Carter Page, I think he rather enjoys the notoriety, but essentially his career, whatever it was going to be tantamount to success or failure, is now south of the failure line. People's lives have been destroyed. The president's reputation has been under siege for 2 straight years, if not longer, because of the scuttlebutt that predated the Mueller appointment. My main point in reminding everybody all of this is to watch out for the people who said, we were right, particularly the slow walkers, the retards like Bill Mitchell, who know nothing about politics, political capital, who never understand what we didn't get done with a Republican majority in both chambers because of this Mueller witch hunt, because of people like Rosenstein, because of the abdication of responsibility by Jeff Sessions, literally destroyed our political capital for 2 years. It's inexcusable. Trump has every right to be disgusted to the point of nausea. And I would not in any way condone one of these morons coming out and saying, we told you Mueller was a white hat all along. So Mueller specifically states in this report that he is neither finding the president guilty of collusion, obstruction, or anything else, nor is he saying that he can exonerate him. So essentially, it's been worthless. It has been a worthless 2 years of getting kicked in the balls, shivved in the ribs, knifed in the back, buggered with a broken broom handle, all for what? Nothing. And now guess what? It's not over. It's not over. So we live with the stupid SDNY lingering investigations. We live with whatever the hell Nadler and Schiff are going to do. So yes, it's a time to be happy. I'm happy, but I'm not surprised by any of this stuff. You shouldn't be either if you've been paying attention for the last year. Here's the interesting part before I was distracted by someone who watches the scam artist Closer. The second element, this I'm reading from the Barr report. The second element involved the Russian government efforts to conduct computer hacking operations designed to gather, disseminate information to influence the election. The special counsel found that Russian government actors successfully hacked into the computers and obtained emails from persons affiliated with the Clinton campaign, i.e. Podesta, and the Democratic Party, i.e. DNC, and it publicly disseminated those materials through various intermediaries, including WikiLeaks, otherwise known as Organization 1, from some of the indictment papers. Now, why is that important? Why is that important? Okay, I'm going to read it back one more time. This is a definitive statement that he is giving you from the Mueller report. The special counsel found that Russian government actors, I'm reading a top news story on the top of the thing, nothing new, found that persons affiliated, Russian government actors successfully hacked into computers and obtained emails from persons affiliated, talking about Podesta, with the Clinton campaign and the DNC organizations, publicly disseminated those materials through various intermediaries, including WikiLeaks. That is not a statement of any speculation. It is a statement that is declarative in nature. It is not accompanied by what you would see as a declination to pursue charges further, simply because it's a foreign actor and not an American citizen. My take is that this is somehow going to be a component of what's in the full Mueller report, which is basically, in his mind, an indictable situation about Julian Assange and whoever intermediaries to Russia. So if he found evidence of what he thinks is a connection between Julian Assange, WikiLeaks, or anybody associated with Organization 1 and Russia, he would not pursue that necessarily under the auspices of the order from Rod Rosenstein. He may have, though, put together a gift to the Department of Justice to explore, which could be used to indict Julian Assange, which I think would be a political firestorm. I think it would be a mistake, and I guess that's entirely up to William Barr. But I found it to be strange that such a declarative statement, a statement without nuance, a statement that doesn't open itself to interpretation, the statement says concretely, absolutely, publicly disseminated those materials through various intermediaries, including WikiLeaks. So that is an attachment that is going to linger about Russia and the campaign and Julian Assange. All the things that are really the poison fruit that they've been attempting to get us to eat the whole time is an acknowledgement that there was something so grossly ingrained in our culture through propaganda and subterfuge that we somehow delegitimized our own election through false Facebook ads and hacked emails from Podesta and the DNC. And I think that's disturbing. I think that Mueller continues to discredit himself, and he is certainly no hero. And if you are a person who prefers knowing what free speech is and knowing what the First Amendment means, and if you're a person that thinks that Daniel Ellsberg didn't commit any crime by releasing the Pentagon Papers during the Vietnam War, then I'm really curious to see why you think Julian Assange should be punished for merely accepting information that should be released to the American people. So I find it pretty interesting. We've already noted two reporter accounts who are attempting to pass off insider information, talking about the president shouldn't be excited. There are bad things in the report for him. You're going to find out more. I can't say more. They're putting themselves on the radar, as I indicated yesterday, that they will probably automatically now be put into a Excel spreadsheet, and electronic warrants will probably be filed today in court. They'll wake up a judge somewhere and on a Sunday, and they will probably seek to hunt down anyone who's leaking any component of the actual report, which is warehoused at a very safe facility at the Department of Justice right now. So the only people that could be leaking any details of the actual Mueller report would be people associated with the Mueller report, easily discoverable and could be pursued. I'm not even going to read much about the obstruction of justice portion. It's kind of ridiculous that the special counsel states, and this is the Robert Mueller quote that Barr has submitted, while this report does not conclude that the president committed a crime, it also does not exonerate him. Okay, well, listen, it's really, really, really difficult to get into a benchmark or somehow get over a hurdle on obstruction, wholesale obstruction. When you're the president of the United States and you wield all these Article 2 authorities, it is really difficult. You would have to have a series of chain reactions. And I think of only one man who would have successfully done it that well or badly, or flaunted it badly, and that's Richard Milhouse Nixon. And what Nixon did is he defied a series of court orders. He defied bipartisan requests from Congress. He did it in a very brazen capacity where he just exerted executive privilege over everything like a big blanket and said, go after yourselves. And he did that right up until there was a unanimous decision from the Supreme Court demanding that he turn over the tapes. And then what he did was, cut out 18 minutes of damning material from the tapes and attempted to play around with that. And that's the quickest way to get your ass thrown out of office. So, the president was protected adequately from his attorneys, starting back, in the early days all the way to the end here, particularly Emmett Flood, who I'm hearing is getting a lot of backslaps from the DC Republican lawyers networks, from all the people that follow that thing, the Federalist Society. Emmett Flood has been getting a lot of kudos, and perhaps he earns them, but he does so very quietly. He was picked for a reason. He drove the Mueller team very angry. I was told he is like a expert defensive strategy chess player. So he was just blocking two moves ahead of what information was going to be requested, and he had already known that he was not going to comply. And then he would already have a backdoor move, and somebody would come up the other side and try to get him on another move. He was already there. His pieces were already in place. So I guess we're tipping the cap to Emmett Flood. I mean, that's the information I get. I pass it along to you. He played it out very well. Mueller's team was frustrated at almost every single angle, and that is a very important thing. If you have no sound and you say that again, I'll probably have to block you. Maybe a friend. I don't know. I can't see names from here, but stop trying to troll us. So that's the last tweet I see from President Trump. I have not heard him speak. I would expect there are a lot of Republicans out there. They're going to be like, let's go with the Godwin or the Goodwin article theory. Let's go after Comey. Let's go after Clinton. I would say, wow. Talk about not letting the country breathe. Talk about not letting the country breathe. Talk about giving even more fire to the Democrats to go after you. See, now that we're in this exhaustion point, it's a choke point, really. It's an exhaustion point for the American public. They've reached a saturation point. All right, Mount Justin Bieber, we call it, where it's just too much, and all of a sudden, no one wants to hear you, see you for a long, long, long time. The last thing I would do if I were running the show is just meet the end of this Mueller investigation and bridge it to the beginning of a Comey, McCabe, Clinton, Obama investigation. First of all, we don't have the authority to do it in the House because we are in ranking situation, not majority situation. William Barr would sooner slice his stomach open samurai style, or take one through the gut and die, fall on a sword before he starts another special counsel, which is like why he came in to end this one. So, and not end it prematurely, but just get us through the end of this, because they're very damaging to the country. The political discourse is acidic at this point. There's nothing that can be done. It's just a horrific situation where we're using the court system as a cudgel to beat each other over the head on policies that should be agreeable, but now it's not. Now it's no longer agreeable. Everything down to spending bill and debt ceilings is now turning into an argument about the wall or a political victory for the president. Concerns about the president's polling numbers never moving really, except bouncing up and down 2 points, 3 points, and not having anybody in the 2020 field for the Democrats that can beat him effectively. So I think it's their game plan will be for the Democrats to take what they can, extract what they can, squeeze out what they can from the next round of material we will get from William Barr. This isn't it. This isn't it. I mean, this is like a 36-hour process where William Barr is sitting there with Rosenstein and going over with a highlighter what they can say and what they can't say in their initial summary that they guaranteed to Congress by the weekend. Now they go back, as the end of the letter says, and if you're curious about what comes next as far as this information, let me go down to the end here. Very careful about what we talked about last night, about anything that could be currently in front of a grand jury or an unexpired grand jury, they will not discuss it, any of it. So you won't find any juicy details about anything that may be in front of a grand jury. There are no Mueller associated indictments that are still in play. So everything Mueller was personally handling from his office with his attorneys is now done. It may have been passed off to other districts, the Eastern District in Virginia, the Southern in New York, or perhaps even the Eastern District in New York. They may have been passed off. We will not know that. That'll not be something that they discuss because they're active grand jury, and that can never be discussed because that's part of the Title 18 stuff that you just can't do. That's law. That's a restriction, protects the integrity of grand jury proceedings and ensures that unique and invaluable investigative powers of a grand jury are used strictly for their intended criminal justice function. Not going to play political football with what's been presented to the grand jury in any of these other side cases. So for people that are saying, and this is another Rick Wilson, Luis Mensch, total TDS crowd, they're saying, it's the SDNY, it's the Southern District of New York who really holds the football. The Southern District of New York reports to William Barr. The Southern District of New York will be reporting to William Barr on a weekly basis as to who and what is being investigated and what materials are currently in front of the grand jury. He's stating right here, he's asked William Barr has asked Bob Mueller to give him the entire caseload of any grand juries that may currently be open as a result of anything that he was involved with giving information from or turning over investigations to or anything like that. So William Barr will have a checklist of all of these, whether it's in Eastern and Virginia, Southern and New York. William Barr will make the ultimate determination. He's not Jeff Sessions. So if you think just because the U.S. Attorney in the state of New York, let's just say, I'm not going to say he's going to change his idea on recusal, but he recused himself on a certain set of cases. In my mind, those days are over. Any other further case that comes along now that the Mueller report is over, he's back in charge and he reports directly to William Barr. So you really don't have to worry about it as much as you think you have to worry about it. Bad news for the Democrats. The Southern District of New York is firmly entrenched under the authority of William Barr. The whole game is different now. William Barr changed the whole game. William Barr controls all of this information. The president's completely insulated from all this. He doesn't know. He may want to know, but he's not going to know. And William Barr is going to make all of these decisions. He's basically like this big boulder of containment right now. He's just a big, monumental boulder between what the Democrats want, what Mueller gave, and what the president wants. I mean, he's right in between all of it. And he took this job not to shy away from it, not to worry about a legacy that he already has from being a successful attorney general. So it's just, it makes me kind of giggle when I listen to these Democrat talking points about the Southern District of New York. It's over. You lost. It's over. You lost. You lost. You lost. You lost. The only thing that can come out of these Southern District of New York things is basically some type of weird collusion with the New York State Attorney General to try to like squeeze Manafort or somebody else like Roger Stone on a state charge that can't be dismissed or commuted or pardoned by the president, which will, William Barr will be all over that shit. It's not going to happen. And, the feds will squash the state on that one. So there'll be no charges because the federal government will make sure that it doesn't comply with any of that stuff. William Barr is the ultimate authority over any case. Is it inappropriate or improper for him to direct a U.S. attorney to drop an ongoing case? Historically, yes. Is it something that's never been done before? Oh, it's been done probably in every single administration, every year of every single administration. So there's no problems killing something that he is not comfortable, that William Barr is not comfortable moving forward with. A U.S. attorney is presenting a case that he feels is improper or has used an improper evidentiary chain from a special counsel appointment, he's not going to allow that type of political situation to play out. William Barr is here to make this a one issue of containment. It's going to be like a giant black hole. William Barr is going to suck in all peripheral orbital issues related to the Mueller investigation. He's going to ingest them and spit out whatever dark matter he thinks will end this charade once and for all. That's his goal. I'm speaking out of my speculation as knowing who he is and the people that have worked with him and seeing him work so far. He is not going to allow other bit players to control a narrative, including one of his own U.S. attorneys. If this guy wants to act up in the Southern District, he's going to get fired like Priate was fired, and people are going to complain about it. Don't care. William Barr will fire you. He will never involve the president in it. It's not going to be something they're going to be able to talk about, obstruction for the president. William Barr is going to be like, listen, we've adjudicated this. It's been done. Ironclad case, or you're not going to court with it. You're not playing politics anymore with this stuff. So you got to give William Barr credit where credit is due. The decision to keep Rod Rosenstein on long enough to help back up the findings that Barr is going to be sending is brilliant. It's a brilliant maneuver. Do I like having a rat like Rosenstein hanging around? No, but he's finally in a position where he can do something positive for us before we shove his disgusting ass, is the nicest word I can think of it, out the door, never to be hired again, because he is now hated on all sides of the political aisle. Rosenstein is a rat. He took the worst of what Comey was about and he embedded it into the Department of Justice. He used the cowardice and the fear and the mental limitations of Jeff Sessions, and it mutated into a very, very bad situation for Donald Trump. While we are succeeding on the front right now of the Mueller report, while we will continue to succeed in the investigations by the House oversight committees, who are essentially ballless, okay, they're geldings. There is nothing they can do but whine, piss, and moan if people don't give them the paperwork that they want, if they don't appear before the committee. All they can do is send a recommendation over to the Department of Justice that they would be file a contempt charge against them. William Barr, guess what? He's the one in charge of that too. So think about that. The man who's going to make the balls and strikes call on your complying with the oversight committees is not Jerry Nadler. It's not Adam Schiff. It's not Nancy Pelosi. It's William Barr. We are back to normal functional protocol. Think back to Lois Lerner IRS scandal. Think back to Eric Holder and the gun running Fast and Furious stuff. Think back to all of the shit that went down during the Obama administration. Where did it get to? Benghazi. Where did it get to? It got a whole lot of Trey Gowdy, Jason Chaffetz talking out their ass, bitching and moaning. There's nothing they could do about it but whine and bitch like petulant children. You're about to see a replay on the other side of the aisle. The whiny, bitchy people are going to be now the unpalatably ugly and disturbing combination of Fat Jerry and Adam Piece of Schiff. I mean, here we got this just really seedy, drunk homosexual guy known for blatant leaks of classified committee materials to CNN and Adam Schiff, and a guy who spent probably $20,000 to $50,000 on a gastric bypass surgery with your tax money, known as Fat Jerry Nadler, who Trump has been making fun of for 30 years. Not a good look. Not a good look. I applaud what Doug Collins is doing. I think you should continue to point out the problems that we had here with Bruce and Nellie Orr and Glenn Simpson not being brought in efficiently for an open open congressional investigation and testimony, working with Christopher Steele. Christopher Steele needs to be somehow deposed on American soil, considering he was working on something that was involved with foreign aid. Why was he not registered as a foreign agent? So I would not be surprised if William Barr looks into all these things. I would be surprised if William Barr decides he looks at the Horowitz report and says, "Whoa, there were some criminal actions here," and turns around and seeks to indict Andrew McCabe, Lisa Page, Peter Strzok, Priestap, Baker, any of these people, even filtering over into the DOJ realm of Sally Q. Yates, and then Lynch, looking at Rice, looking at Power, looking at Jarrett. I mean, I just don't think it's going to go there. I mean, that would be entirely against the character of William Barr to do so. And to much to your disappointment, I don't see that be anything more than a talking point. But it's still politically useful. And if the Democrats decide to do something what we consider to be extreme, then we will use declassification as a weapon to destabilize that political narrative. There is no way for the Democrats to win on this front anymore. And my suggestion is that they just kind of do a two-track investigation where they're looking into Trump stuff and whining about Trump, and then find something else because it's not working. It is not working. It's not going to be a successful talking point for you in the future. So, my point, William Barr will be giving more information out in the near future, information that will not rock anybody's world, I guarantee. I guarantee it won't rock anybody's world, but it will be the information that he is allowed to under the Section 600 of the regulations, which were put into place in 1999. There's nothing new about it, Nancy. So you can shut up about bringing Mueller over and testifying about the report. That's never going to happen. No one will be testifying about the contents of this report. It is completely and solely warehoused under the authority and auspices of the Attorney General, as has been expressed by the congressionally approved, mind you, negotiated regs that were put in place in 1999 following the Ken Starr debacle. So there's nothing else of note in the initial report that I found interesting, other than the fact that it is seemingly a declarative statement, in under the eyes of the law, would be accompanied by information backing that statement up. That statement I will read to you once again. It is in the report. The special counsel found that Russian government actors successfully hacked into computers and obtained emails from persons affiliated with the Clinton campaign and Democrat National Party, publicly disseminated those materials through various intermediaries, including WikiLeaks. You don't just include that statement in the initial summary to Congress and make it so that it cannot be listed as supposition. This is actual fact stating by the special counsel. So know that in the content of the actual report is more not related to Trump, not related to people in the Trump campaign, but there is indeed more information, I guarantee it, regarding a plan to hold WikiLeaks accountable for what they deem interference into our election process. And I think that's a dangerous thing for a lot of people, and I think it's certainly dangerous for Julian Assange. And I'm not quite sure where William Barr is going to come down on all that. I think it's a very interesting statement. I haven't heard anybody discuss it, but I haven't, been watching TV for the last hour and a half. So perhaps I missed something in that realm. So, so this is, and I could be wrong. I could absolutely be wrong. Where to just put Stone's in the same position he was already in. I mean, Stone's going on trial. Stone will defend himself to the hilt, and it's likely if they get him on a couple of different charges, then maybe he gets a couple months in jail, and he's probably out before Trump can get him out in December of 2020. But then he'll likely be pardoned, and he will enjoy that very much. To Roger Stone, he will spend 2 months in jail in order to gain a preeminent spot in American consciousness. That's just how Roger Stone is, and that's not going to change anytime soon. So what I'll do is I'll take a quick peek here, see if anything broke while I'm talking. Unlikely, but we'll see. Okay. Somebody just sent me a techno fog tweet. If Mueller thought Trump obstructed justice, he would have said so. Leaving his superiors to make that judgment is a political decision, an attempt to leave the question of obstruction to Democrats in Congress. No. I mean, I have no problem with this Technofog account. Um, Seems to be good at getting information out, court information and things of discoverable nature online. Let me repeat that for you all one more time. If Mueller thought Trump obstructed justice, he would have said so. No. Uh, if Mueller would have, if Mueller had what he deemed credible evidence of obstruction, he would have made the recommendation to the Department of Justice to decide whether or not to break its longstanding policy that you can't indict a president. I mean, Mueller's not going to indict a president. I think we all knew that that was never going to happen. Even the special counsel acknowledged that it was respecting the DOJ memoranda that we don't indict a sitting president. So that's not necessarily true. Mueller could and does say, Mueller does say already, we already know, he does say that there is not substantial evidence to prove an obstruction case. So he did, in fact, say that he's neither exonerating him nor is he calling for him to be charged with obstruction. So, with all due respect to Technofog, that is not a correct statement. He would always leave his superiors to that because the superiors are the only one who can break their own regulations. Superiors meaning William Barr. It is not a political decision, and so I'm a little bit confused as to why you say that. An attempt to leave the question of obstruction to Democrats in Congress. That was already happening. So that's already happening. The Democrats have already said they're investigating obstruction of justice. The Democrats have a different standard. Obstruction of justice is not a legal term in the world of oversight in Congress. So congressional oversight is not bound by a codified version of criminal intent to obstruct justice. That is a political, an elusive political term that can be turned from a round peg into a square peg to fit into whatever hole that they want. I mean, so there was not really anything that Mueller could have changed on that front unless he found evidence, written intent, or multiple witnesses who heard the president say, "I am going to fire James Comey to stop this Russian investigation." Sends out a memo saying to Don McGahn, then chief counsel of the White House, "I need Robert Mueller fired to stop this investigation into me." Those types of things would have triggered a suggestion to William Barr, a recommendation to the Attorney General that this is obstruction of justice, and it is up to him to alert Congress to that. That's it, because he can't go outside of a box. He's an inferior officer of the Department of Justice, so he can't indict a president without going to the Attorney General. So I appreciate the narrative, I do, but it's time to get away. I don't know how we're going to pull people off of this. I don't know how we're going to pull people off of this conspiratorial mix where they just can't get off the junk. They're addicted to it. They're addicted to this notion that there's always more and there's always a secret plan to get Trump and there's always a secret plan for Trump to get his enemies. You're slowly going to have to take all that stuff off. Take that off. Take your blinders off. William Barr flips the script on all of this stuff. And I'm not speaking in terms of this guy's like some kind of legal iconoclast that's going to change everything. And I'm not making it into one of these love fests that people. I'm not going to rename my account after William Barr. I'm just telling you, he's an actual attorney general who actually has assumed the responsibility of being an attorney general, and it all goes through him. And there's no more games to play. All right, sorry, Q. There's no more games to play. So while I appreciate, and I'm not calling out Techno Fog, by all means, check out the account. I mean, I think I'm following it. I'm following Techno Fog, and he's a lawyer. Well, says he's a lawyer. So it's not my business to trash him individual. If you want to follow somebody, I think he's a good follow. In this case, it appears he's probably not somebody who, if he was a lawyer, he's probably not somebody who has worked in government or has paid much attention to how the differentials are between declaring obstruction in a congressional sense as a matter of abuse of power for impeachment purposes, and what you would in a criminal sense, a criminal liability sense, and that would be as a citizen charging him with obstruction. Clearly, that's not something Mueller knew he could get because he didn't. So we already knew everything. We knew that Comey said, he said to me about General Flynn's a good guy. I'd like to try to see your way and letting him off easy, or whatever bullshit comment that didn't even sound like something Trump would say. Trump said he did not make that comment. Therefore, that'd be a pretty tough case to make on obstruction, considering the fact they did go ahead and indict and prosecute General Flynn. I don't see any obstruction there because Trump could have stopped that at any time that he wanted to, and probably wouldn't have been obstruction even if he did. And then in a secondary sense, him saying something offhand about, Comey was fired because of his role in the Russia investigation. Well, Comey himself testified under oath that the president had in no way, before he was fired, Comey said that the president had no way impeded his investigation, did not ask that it be scaled back. So there was testimony under oath conflicting anything Comey went on to say later. So it just doesn't work. So I appreciate the sentiment. I didn't mean to single out Technofog. I just went through and saw someone sent me that. And it's not technically true. It was always going to be a decision by the Attorney General whether or not to pursue the criminal prosecution or indictment of a president, ignoring its own regulations and protocol. So anyway, that's all I got on that. So it doesn't look like we're going to find anything new. Trump has spiked the football. I don't blame him. We can bring up Drudge and see what he's saying here. Yeah, Drudge has got the, I know it's kind of funny. Trump wins. Campaign did not collude with Russians. Mueller does not find obstruction. No proof of crimes. All true. It's all true. It's all predictable that there was never going to be any of that because it was playing out in the courts. The biggest question we all had was when it was going to end and when we knew there were no outstanding indictments being pursued by Mueller's team, from Mueller's team itself. That was all we were waiting for because we knew up to now everything. We knew what they had and didn't have. And so there is no, I know that there's going to be more stuff inside the Mueller report, but no one's ever going to hear about it unless it's leaked, and then Barr will come down like the hammer of Thor and put somebody in jail for leaking it. That's a fact, Jack. That is a fact. Maxine meltdown. Okay, well let's click on that quick before we jump off. Maxine meltdown. Oh, it's the American Mirror. Oh, brother. Maxine Waters tells Joy Reid. Wow. What's the collective IQ on that conversation? What's the over-under on that collective IQ between Joy Reid and Maxine Waters? This is not the end of anything, Waters screamed at Joy Reid. This is, repeated, well, it's the end of the report and the investigation by Mueller, but those of us who chair these committees have a responsibility to continue with our oversight. You go ahead and do that, honey. You go ahead and do that. There's so much that needs to be, taken a look at this point. So it's not the end of everything. That's a literal quote from Maxine Waters. Okay. With the fear of God. The fear of God has been struck into Donald Trump by Maxine Waters. Not really. Nadler saying it's not over. I mean, I've already listened to Nadler today. He laid out his talking points. Listen, man, dude, there's nothing you can do about it anymore. There's nothing you can do about it. Anything you find has to be used in a political arena, and you're going to have to try to justify it to your congressional colleagues. And if you pursue impeachment, you're going to lose 30 moderate to 35 moderates who just got in there. You're going to lose their elections, and you're going to give back the House. And now you're going to have President Trump second term with a Republican Senate and a Republican House again. Bad move. bad, as they say, bad, bad. Okay, well, all right. So that's a private directive, if you will, made publicly to Lindsey Graham. So Lindsey Graham's the only one with any authority in Congress to look into this shit. So I would say that Lindsey Graham made a public call on the Senate floor 2 weeks ago where he said, you know what, I think we need a second special counsel, which is like, to William Barr, that's like he'll jump off a bridge before that happens. But the fact that Lindsey Graham made that assertion, he is laying the framework, the foundation for his own committee investigations into the behavior of all of these people leading back to 2015. So I would look at it as probably Lindsey Graham led effort. Richard Burr, to a lesser extent, might decide that he played nice enough with Mark Warner during the whole investigation, and maybe that he'll look into some of the intel breaches, some of the facts that we didn't quite have the oversight correct when it came to utilizing assets, potentially assets, including the CIA, and using them domestically in a way that's not conforming to the law. I think that that falls under the purview of the Intelligence Committee. So there's a chance that Richard Burr will take up part of this slice of the pie, but the main pie will be baked by Lindsey Graham, who now chairs the powerful Judiciary Committee. And I believe that that's probably where you're going to see some of your fighting back that you all want to see, and I want to see as well. That we keep chipping away. It's a counterbalance effect now. You'll have Nadler and Schiff over on the one side, but they're not getting people that are going to willingly comply with all this stuff. And then you're going to have Lindsey Graham on the other side, and he's going to take on the rotten to the core aspects of the people that were at one time hired by the United States government to work for a federal law enforcement agency under the Department of Justice for the FBI and others. So I think that William Barr will push back on delivering agents who he sees as were merely complying with their boss's orders, and he will protect them. He will not have FBI officials similar to the ones that were like involved with Strzok's investigation or having the conversation with Michael Flynn, changing their stories. I doubt that William Barr is going to allow that type of activity to occur. William Barr will have no compunction whatsoever about the Department of Justice officials that are no longer hired to discuss their own roles, provided that they don't get into any sources and methods of the Department of Justice. So I wouldn't expect he's going to bend over backward to protect James Baker, Lisa Page, Peter Strzok, even Andrew McCabe, James Comey. I don't think he's going to, he has to repair. He has to repair the relationship between the executive, judicial, and congressional branches that have been battered with maneuvers that just aren't really on the up and up. And obviously by judicial, I'm talking about the FISA court. And obviously, I'm talking about the information that was leaked from congressional investigations, and how angry the president is at his own federal law enforcement agencies, particularly the ones at the top that just screwed with him the way that they did. So William Barr's got a tough job. It's reparative in nature, though. He's not looking to destroy it in order to rebuild it in his own image. I think he's looking to cut off the gangrenous limbs that he can get rid of, and publicly exonerate his current staff by potentially vilifying the ones that are not there anymore. He's certainly not going to throw himself on any live grenades for James Comey, Andrew McCabe, or any of the people that I've named, to Bruce Orr, or anybody like that. They are, and they will need to answer for what they did, and that includes Rod Rosenstein. And maybe Lindsey Graham is the guy to do that, because I tell you what, it's not going to be anybody else besides Horowitz. I'm not even going to mention Huber's name. You can forget about that. But William Barr has no interest at all in continuing anything that Jeff Sessions started, and that includes what is his name, John Huber's investigation. Forget all that shit. William Barr is not giving up any control over the things that he can control. So poor Q. Q lost another one. Q has been wrong about everything. Q insisted that Rod Rosenstein was going to be jettisoned in order for William Barr and Whitaker to accept the report from and Mueller, and then turn around and use that and the Horowitz report to indict people, and that's not going to happen, of course. And they couldn't even get the names of the players right. Everything in the damn uh, the Q drop that I read on that was all wrong. And that's what happens when you don't know anything about government. That's what happens when you don't know anybody inside the Department of Justice. You just make really anti-intellectual statements that you'll go on to regret. So I don't know. So sorry, Q, you're wrong. Anyway, I'm gonna get off here and go watch some basketball. I think it's a big day for the president. He's probably feeling like he got a weight lifted off of his shoulder, and he should. His family obviously should feel the same way. Lawyer up, lawyer up until Nadler, Fat Jerry, and piece of Schiff. Tell them to go F themselves. There's nothing they can do to you. There's just nothing they can do but whine and moan like impotent little pricks because they have no authority on that front. All they can do is pursue some wild goose chase against the president and try to do impeachment articles, and then they get wiped out in the House of Representatives. And frankly, I think it would turn into a war in the Democrat caucus if they tried to do that. So let them continue down the lane. They keep making mistakes that are wrong. I mark my words. Mark my word. My prediction right here, right now, is for the next 7 days, every declared candidate for the Democrat nomination for president in 2020 will say the following. Here, I'll play a little Q game for you right here. If you elect me president, I will release and declassify the full Mueller report. So once and for all, we can find out exactly what happened during the 2016 election and ensure that it never happens again. I just basically told you what every single one of these asshats is going to say. Every one of these asshats, from the gay mayor in Indiana that nobody knows, all the way up, to Joe Biden. They're all going to make the same claim to fame. If elected, I don't know why I'm talking like Abraham Lincoln, but if elected, I will give full disclosure of the Mueller report. I will declassify the entire Mueller report, and Americans will finally know the impacts of Russia in the 2016 election. There it is. Good luck. Good luck. Go ahead and do it. Go run around the country and do that. See how it turns out. I got like that post haircut thing, like Costanza thing, where like the hair is still on the back of your collar. So anyway, that's exactly what they're gonna do. And then I pity them. It really is it's a bad day to be a TDS Never Trumper or a TDS Democrat. It's a bad day for pro-Trump Twitter accounts that suggested that there were a lot of white hat theories going on, and none of it was true. The sad, sorry, boring old truth that yours truly has been talking about for 2 years is what exactly happened. So I may be not the most exciting guy on the internet, but that's because I don't want to be. I don't care to be. I'm doing my job the only way I know how to do it, and that is by giving you correct information as I understand it and learn it, and I will not make it any sexier than it has to be. Click or don't click does not define me, so I'm not really worried about it. So good day for us. You don't often hear me say that I'm declaring an almost total victory, but in this case, over the Democrats and the narrative, I think I'm declaring almost total victory. I think it's all a bad deal. It's all a bad deal for the Democrats. There's really no workable angle here. And if I were some U.S. attorney that is getting, stakes bought for me, and I'm feeling good about myself because a lot of rich Democrats are helping me craft the strategies to try to undermine the president with other investigation. I would remind myself that I work for the Attorney General. I would watch Billions. I would go back to season 1. By the way, season 4 started last week. I would recommend you tune in tonight, 9 or 10. I believe it's 9 or 10. Check your local TV guide. Nobody uses anymore. Billions, fantastic show. Go back, and if you haven't watched Billions and you watch it, binge watch seasons 1, right through the current season 4, and then your mind will be blown at how it is following the coincidental things that are occurring along the way in this whole investigation. There's always politics at play in the Department of Justice. There's always politics in the interplay between the FBI and the prosecutorial wing of the Department of Justice. And there is always a Shakespearean dance going on between the U.S. attorneys and the Attorney General. And you will see this as it matures throughout the 3 and now into its 4th season. So again, the show is Billions. Paul Giamatti is the main actor, and you can't just jump in now. So you're going to have to start watching it until you get live. So do a binge watch on that. I promise it's the best binge watch since Breaking Bad, in my opinion. My humble opinion is the best binge watch that you can possibly ever achieve in life is to be fortunate enough not to have been following Billions since it came out, and then give yourself 3+ seasons to watch at once. It will change your perspective on all of this, and it's pretty hilarious that it has turned out the way it has. And I'm looking forward to tonight's episode. So that is my entertainment portion of the broadcast. So I will end this Periscope. It will be hidden on my account. It'll be off my timeline. It'll be over on the MAGA Coalition YouTube channel. If you have not searched MAGA Coalition on YouTube and click subscriber, you are soon not ever going to see me on Periscope at all anymore, because I won't be doing it. I will be on MAGA Coalition's YouTube channel, because this is what we do for a living. So let's just take it and make it a professional thing while we're at it. So this is one of my very last Periscopes under this account, and I hope you enjoyed it. Just giving you a little rundown. Next time, William Barr will give up more information to Congress about what's in that report, and when we uncover that, I will be doing so on MAGA Coalition's YouTube channel. So let's all go over there and hang out. So have a great Sunday. Watch whatever basketball's left, and don't forget to spend some time with your family and your friends, and we can all put this one political debacle behind us. Starting tomorrow, all the water coolers should be a little bit different. We don't have to worry about it anymore. So, sorry, TDS people. Happy Sunday to all the pro-Trump people. No one is happier than me. See ya.